In this lesson, we're going to begin the process of set dressing and manipulating objects in a level. Alright, so let's go ahead and start out with just kind of a blank slate here. So let's just select that crate and delete it out. And what I want to do is I want to build kind of a cave where it looks like somebody is maybe excavating in there, or maybe living there, and there's different items and things like that. And we're going to be using all of our objects that we've brought in with our props. Now, I've brought all of these in between lessons because that would just take forever, and you don't want to sit there and watch me bring in textures and then hooking all of those up. This is a quick start after all. So to get started, let's go to our environment folder. And in the environment folder, you'll see a folder called meshes, and then you'll see rocks. Now inside of this, we have several different rocks that we can use, and we're going to go ahead and bring those in, and we're going to place them in such a way that we can build something that looks like a cave. So to get started with this, let's go ahead and start out with this, let's do this static mesh cave rock large. Go ahead and left click and drag that into the scene. You'll see that it's quite large here, and that's okay. We can grab our move tool by hitting W on the keyboard, or let me go ahead and pull that back here, or you can use the toolbox up here in your viewport. So this is the move tool, this is the rotate tool, and this is the scale tool. The keyboard shortcuts for those are W for move, E for rotate, and R for scale, or you can use the space bar and just toggle between the three. Now you'll notice that whenever you're moving your objects, you can move them in different spaces. So by default, everything is set to the world space. So that will allow you to move up in the Z direction according to the world. Okay, notice the axis here. Or you could even move an object, or even rotate and scale an object based on its local space. So notice the icon here, it looks like an object or a cube. So you'll notice it doesn't really look any different with our move tool. But if I were to come in and let's say I rotated this rock on the side, and then I came in and I switched this over to local, you'll notice that the rotation gizmo has changed. Especially if we take a look at our move tool. Notice the Z direction is now pointing off in this diagonal direction here. So we can now move objects in their own local space, which makes things look a little bit easier whenever we're working in set dressing. So let's hit Control Z a couple times. This is the keyboard shortcut for undo, and let's make sure that we have our snap settings turned on. By default, you'll see that all of these are orange, letting us know that the snapping is on for our position, the snapping is on for our rotation, and the snapping is on for our scaling. So let's go ahead and start positioning this guy, and I'm going to just kind of rotate around to the side here. Let's go ahead and put him here, and I want to make a duplicate of that so I can hold down Alt and then move that along the Y, okay, or any axis that you want to duplicate it, and you'll see that that's made a copy or a clone. Let's go ahead and switch to our rotation tool, hitting E on the keyboard, and let's rotate it along that Z axis, and let's just rotate it around to something like this. Now it might be kind of hard to see what's happening here because we're in the shadow. There's a couple of things that you could do. You could change the direction of the directional light, or you could just turn on unlit, and that will show you what the world looks like without any lit information. This is okay for right now. We'll go ahead and we'll just position this a little bit more. Let's try using a different rock here instead while we're at it. So let me grab this one, and let's go ahead and rotate it, let's say 180 degrees, so that way the flat bottom is down. Okay, so just like that. And let's go ahead and grab our move tool. Let's pull that down a little bit, and maybe we'll pull that in. We want to just create kind of this circular shape like a cave. Okay, we can duplicate that one, or what we could do is we could go ahead and we could grab a different one here. So let's go ahead and scale down. Let's grab this large cave rock here, and we'll just position that here. Now notice that whenever I'm left clicking and dragging that in, it's snapping to the surface of my object. So I can actually snap it to the surface of a rock there, or to the surface that's already here. Let's go ahead and just position that to where it kind of looks like it's butting up right against that. Hold down Alt and duplicate this one. And let's do something kind of like this, but then Whenever you have objects like this, it's always a good idea to go ahead and rotate them, especially if they're clones of one another. Rotate them maybe 90 degrees or so that way you really can't notice that they're the same object. Let's come in, let's grab maybe a different one. Let's go ahead and just use these three. I think we've got plenty here. So grab our move tool. I'm going to switch this over to the world axis, hold down Alt and grab it along the X and move that out. Something like that. Okay, that looks good. And let's make sure that we pull this out some. We don't want to cover up that one completely, because what would be the point of even having it there if we couldn't see it? And go ahead and let me pull this out. Something like that. Okay, very good. And then we'll do one more. Let's grab this little one right here. And we'll hold down Alt. And I can actually move in a biplanar fashion. So let me go right over the top of this. If you hover over the box here in the middle of the move tool, you'll notice that it highlights two direction in yellow. If you hold down Alt and grab that right along that box, you can move it in a coplanar fashion like that. So that makes things go a little bit faster. All right, there we go. So now we've got kind of a little cave here. We don't want this to be very big. We're not trying to create an entire world right now. I'm actually going to select this plane right here, and I'm going to move it around just a little bit. This is going to serve as kind of like a work plane just for right now, so that way I can come in and drag in the slate pieces. Okay, so we have these cave rock slates. Drag those in right along that floor, that surface there, and just start to spread those out a little bit. So I'll create one here, hold down Alt. Let me pull this out. We'll just kind of pull these out very quickly and try to cover the floor here. And then I can actually select multiples of these. So if I hold down Control and left click on those, with all of those selected, I can hold down Alt. I can pull that back here. And with those still selected, hold Alt again, drag that up. And then one more time. Actually, we may have to do it two more times. And then we'll pull that one up there. Now, a couple of these that may not be showing, we can see just a little bit right there of this one. We'll go ahead and we'll leave it. This one, I don't know. Yeah, it is showing right here. That's okay. Now what we could do is go ahead and take some of these and just start rotating them in position, just to kind of create some variation in the material and in the shape of the rock. Okay. And you may have to move one or two here or there just to kind of get that to look the way we want it. Okay, just randomly changing some of those. Now let's go ahead and go back to our lit view. You'll notice here that we've got kind of this cave look. Just for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this directional light. You can see the light source here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it along the Z a little bit. And if you rotate that, you can change the way that the sun is pointing. You can even change it in the X, and that will give it more of a noontime look. Okay, so that way it's shining right inside of there, just like that. Or you can rotate it to one side or the other. Totally up to you. All right, so now that we've got this, it's just kind of a little cliff area, maybe just inside of here. To add a little bit more depth to this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of these slats along the backside. Let's grab our move tool, hold Alt, and let's just pull those up together. Hold Alt, pull those up, and they'll just kind of stack like that. And then I'm going to push them back in the Y a little bit. And then rotate them around. And it's kind of creating this slate rock look. So let me select all three of those, holding down Control again. Hold Alt, pull those up, and then push them back in the Y a little bit, and then rotate them around, okay, to change the way they look, so that way they don't look exactly like the ones underneath them. Okay, just like that. And so now you've got kind of this raised look to it. Hold down Control, select all 6 of those, and just lower that down just a little bit. You may have to come in and turn off your snap for your position, and just position that exactly where you want that to be. So now we've got kind of this slate rock. You may just take one of these and hold Alt and pull it up by itself, and then rotate it, and then move it just to kind of give yourself a little bit more variation. Okay. All right, so there we go. We've created a cave entrance, or just kind of a little cliff area. You could add rocks going across the top, but I'm not going to do that right now because if I did that, the sun wouldn't be able to get into this area yet. And we're not going to be talking about lights until the next volume, where we create an atmosphere and we start talking about effects as well. So there we've got the base of our cave. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in some different elements like props, and we're going to add those in, and we're going to tell kind of a story about what this area is. Okay, so we'll get into that in our next lesson.